Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Very happy to be here today, and I'll be sharing with you some thoughts and information on how sustainable energy can help to mitigate the refugee crisis, the potential for government and private sector responses, and also an opportunity for a leading organization like UNHCR, as far as humanitarian action is concerned, to really work on the transformation of assistance and humanitarian action into a new way of doing business and a sustainable way of doing business. And there are a lot of potentials in many areas that I will try to expose and share with you. There are now about 67 million displaced people around the world. Those are forcibly displaced. There are another 10 million people who are returning or returned home. And there are another 50 million people which we call host communities, where these displaced people are living with them in the bellies of towns and villages around the world. All of them are in need of humanitarian assistance or development assistance. The vast majorities, for example, of refugees, we find them today hosted in low or middle income countries, which compared to wealthier industrial countries often do not have the necessary infrastructure, services, and livelihood opportunities to support large number of new arrivals of displaced people. Amid this backdrop, one can say the world urgently needs a new and innovative solutions to help these tens of millions of people who are on the move. There is growing challenges when it comes to their protection, their health, their education, their livelihood, their services, and their feeding, and also protecting them from the elements of the climate, the weather. Also to save them from conflicts and their physical protection, aside from many aspects of life that we enjoy without appreciating. And there is a challenge for all of them to have these benefits. To implement our vision of transforming our work and do a new business with sustainable energy and sustainable way of life, that means we have to work with the private sector, the public sector, governments, local communities, with the IDPs or internally displaced person communities, the refugees, and those people on the move themselves, plus the communities that are hosting them. To use renewable energy in humanitarian and displacement settings, it's fundamental component now of UNHCR, more comprehensive and sustainable responses. Human dignity and self-reliance cannot be achieved without, for example, light, heat, power, and mobility. Now, UNHCR has 4 core energy objectives in ensuring the implementation of its mandate. First, UNHCR seeks to minimize, for example, protection risks and improve life quality through effective energy intervention, both in emergency and in protracted situations. Access to energy is vital for refugees, both for ensuring protection and subsistence, as well as supporting solutions. Secondly, one can say UNHCR, while seeks to improve opportunities for education and productive activities through increased access to clean, affordable, and sustainable energy at household and community level. Thirdly, we seek to reduce the negative environmental impacts, including deforestation, land degradation, and carbon emissions. And fourthly, we seek the promotion of energy efficiently and lower operational costs to our displaced people, our host communities, and the government or the states that are hosting them, and our donors, allowing us to spend more of our financial resources upon the displaced population where our mandate is to serve. To achieve all of these objectives, UNHCR is currently prioritizing these key areas of energy intervention, for example. The first priority area, energy for clean and fuel-efficient cooking, for example. The traditional use of firewood and charcoal for cooking food in refugee camps or refugee situation has had a hugely detrimental impact on local economies and local environments. Refugees' health protection as well as social cohesion between refugees and host communities. It's estimated that, for example, wood equaling around 49,000 football pitches worth of forest, that means about 64,000 acres, is burned by displaced families living in camps each year. That's a huge number. And year on year, that erosion happens to the environment. An estimated 20,000 people, for example, primarily women and children, die prematurely each year due to pollution from indoor fumes and fire. And women are often at great risk of violence, sexual harassment, and rape during the many hours that they spend collecting firewood in remote areas from their homes. For example, when we look at the Difa in the Nigeria region, fuel requirement for rapidly expanding local population has led to extensive deforestation, which in turn has accelerated desertification and the forced abandonment of agricultural land. In the same area, and Difa, UNHCR partnered with the Nigerian government and the private sector to introduce liquefied petroleum gas to the region. We provided an initial investment, applying gas canisters and portable gas rings to about 150,000 people. The Nigerian, for example, gas distribution company, Sonhi, agreed to expand its coverage in the Difa sitting camps, network of refilling stations, and other measures to cover the needs. 30% of the population there switched to one form or another of gas, avoiding collection of firewood and deforestation. There are, in Rwanda, for example, social enterprises that has deployed locally made fuel pallets that now UNHCR largely use in crowd-sourced from Rwandan farmers who collect the raw biomass abundant around their homes and farms. The finances to the development of its own clean cooking stove and distribution free of charge to the population also helped a great deal the refugee camps and the local population. Having mitigated the threat of deforestation, for example, through the introduction of clean and fuel-efficient cooking stove, we can, together with the local population, encourage tree planting, agroforestry, and the introduction of sustainable land management interventions that are usable and of great use to all type of sectors of population that are of our concern. In Cameroon, for example, extreme deforestation and increasingly scarce water availability threatened peaceful coexistence between the communities, between the Nigerian refugees and local host communities, for example. And UNHCR partnered with social enterprises, which has developed an innovative watering cancun that helps newly planted trees survival in harsh conditions. For example, 40,000 trees will be planted this year alone as part of a wider green campaign initiative. The introduction of clean, fuel-efficient cooking has had dramatic results for both the refugees and the host communities. Firstly, women are no longer exposed to the risk of sexual and gender-based violence while gathering firewood, and are no longer exposed to diverse health effects caused by air pollution. Secondly, social tension between refugees and host communities have markedly been reduced now that there is less competition for resources and there is a better coexistence between these communities. Thirdly, there are now a new opportunity to better preserve the remaining forests and also leading and contributing to a better life for the original local population. The second priority area of basic electricity and lighting or electrification, where we can find only about 10% of refugees worldwide have reliable access to electricity for lighting, heating, cooking, and powering their shelters, or helping them for education or activities after dark. To improve livelihoods, employment, and education opportunities, in recent years, UNHCR has developed and supported the installation of renewable energy to power settlement utilities and services, allowing the provision of reliable, clean energy in place of diesel to power camp operations and commercial activities. Our biggest two examples we have are the Zaatari camp in Jordan, where there are 80,000 people living there, and the other camp, which is Azraq, which also another 30,000 to 40,000 Syrian refugees live. These two camps were powered through solar energy, and they provide a great deal of power to the population at a very low cost. We saved millions of dollars in electricity bill, but also with a very positive impact for the local environment and refugee population and the local population alike. We have in 2016, for example, with financial support from IKEA Foundation and technical support from Engineers Without Borders, UNHCR was able to design and install community lighting from mini-grids to provide innovative solar streets lighting solutions. In many parts of the world, in Nepal, for Syrian refugees, internally displaced persons who are returning to their homes, in camp situations and in host community situations. And this provided a great help to both the local populations and the returning population. And third priority for us, I would say, is institutional energy. Reducing reliance on fossil fuels for organizations providing services to displaced persons, including offices, staff accommodation, and assets around the world. UNHCR, for example, at headquarters has achieved a carbon neutrality. It's estimated that humanitarian agencies spend more than $100 million a year on just diesel used to produce electricity. Well, this is one of many examples. We seek to transition ourselves and other organizations that we deal with to provide services to displaced people to clean and affordable energy as an overall noble objective and noble approach. This can reduce not only the cost of the institution, but also, as I mentioned, there are multi-dimensional benefits to this, from environment to financial, to the local population, to livelihood, to improvement of life. Reducing energy poverty was identified as a priority, and UNHCR seek during the next 10 years, working with IRENA, the private sector, the public sector, and also with our donors, to have a 10-year plan that will lead us to a roadmap that can transform the way we do business today around the world, where we have 471 locations, 67 million displaced persons, 10 million returnees, 50 million host communities, and work on sustainable ways of working on energy, clean water, livelihood, education, health, protection, and many services that we provide to the world disposed. Thank you very much.